Can he get around his man? He can! Look at the gas! Look at the gas! Try!
Welcome to ODT Rugby Chat, brought to you by Garrador. If you're looking for Garage Door, go and see my mate across there in Kaikoura Valley, and he'll sort you out. So we're still on our club roundup this week. So this week I'm going to Dunedin. I've got Giff Henry, the coach from there, coming in. So welcome along, Giff. And I was trying to get a coach from AU, but that's pretty hard. They're just too busy, those men. So I've had to go back to the old stage. I've had to go to the club captain, Hugh Tait. So, boys, let's start with you. Let's talk about, because the CRC have been mean to you and took half your teams out of junior rugby this year. So, what do we like strength-wise out at Shark Park this year in terms of teams and sort of teams at the club?
Still pretty strong. Still a lot of players available to play and filling through the teams and stuff. So, yeah, once again, pretty full at Shark Park. For those teams. So
you're down to two junior Colts teams now?
Yep, two junior Colts teams. I think the Tigers are playing in the senior grade.
So you've got two in the senior grade?
Yeah, and then there's Bulls as well, then obviously the Marco's there too. So yeah, there's still plenty of room for players to go. So.
And the women's team, they got thrashed on the weekend, I see, by 50 points, but there seems to be strong numbers in that women's squad.
Once again, strong numbers, and almost we're pushing to try and get a development team as well, trying to push through that too. So no, they're just chipping away, and there's been really strong numbers at their training too. So they're just putting in work. So
okay, so let's come on to you, because you've got quite a few teams at the club this year.
Yeah,
so that's a positive.
Yeah, 6 teams again, which is great. So 2 Colts, Prem Men, Prem Development, Prem Women, and Women's Development.
So why are you guys so strong in that? Because the women's grade, I mean, your team thrashed that Dunedin side by 50 last week, and they were the finalists last year. So why are you so strong in the women's grade?
Oh, I think there's just a history there. We've always had pretty good numbers and good coaches. There's only the 5 teams in the women's grade, as you're going to allude to. So they're playing. A good number of players have come through and been there for a few years. And
how many in the women's development team? A lot of them don't play a full 15 players in that development squad, do they? Or do they?
No, it's a mixture. Yeah. So some clubs can do it. Others are a bit skinny on it, so they might play a 12-side or something similar. So.
Or do you lend players to other sides?
Yeah, there's a fair bit of that goes on.
Right. But at least that's getting girls playing rugby, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. So they play, a lot of them are schoolgirls as well, so they're playing Wednesday afternoons, or they will do when that kicks off in a couple of weeks. Yeah. And then they're playing Saturday as well. So.
Okay. Let's talk about your premier team. That's who you look after, Giff. You're 2 from 4 after 4 games. Yep. You happy with that?
Yeah, results, from a result based, probably a wee bit salty. You'd love to be 4-0, but I think for us, big time was with a wee bit of a shortened pre-season, we sort of just landed on the key message of just focusing on us, trying to build slowly, because it's a long premier season. Especially if you're trying to play finals footy now, then come later on the season when teams are more hardened, then I think you get found out pretty quickly. So we're just week by week finding out what we're good at, but also what we need to get better at. So just week by week for us at the moment.
So is that a lesson you've learned from say last year, that you're trying to keep your players a bit fresher this year?
Yeah, last year and probably the year before, when me and Tamura first got into the premier coaching space, we went pretty hard early on, and then we got to the middle of the season, we were really injured up. We still had a big squad, but probably didn't rotate very well and build depth. Last year as well sort of bit us in the middle there as well, but when we got healthy, we found that we could go on a good stretch towards the end of the season. So pretty similar learnings from the last 2 years that have been brought into this season.
Okay, so let's talk about your premier team. You probably don't want to, but look, haven't had a great start to the season. No. So, is it hard for those guys? Because they've had basically a couple of 70, 80 point humpings over the last couple of weeks. But where are we at long term? Is there some light at the end of the tunnel for you?
Oh, I think so. They've lost a few backs in the last couple of weeks, but the forwards have remained healthy enough, and they're ticking away okay. Last weekend lad broke his thumb, and another one broke a collarbone, and a couple of weeks ago a guy did a knee, so they're all backs are dropping at the moment. So if you've got any spears, Giff, they want to run, send them across. But they're still playing pretty well. We're just getting a bit burnt on the counter attack more than anything.
Speaking of that, though, I was just looking at an email from Warren from the Rugby Union. It's just come out this morning, and you guys probably would have seen that. Some of the teams are really struggling at front row, and I think that possibly could be Tyree because they've lost 3 or 4 props. Yep. And Warren's asking the question, if you've got the bye or you've got props that you're not running that particular weekend, perhaps you should consider lending them to a team that hasn't got props. Is that a good idea?
Well, for the greater good of the game, potentially, but Giff was talking about rotation and giving players a rest because they're getting banged up. So it's a hard work for a club to release a guy, if you like.
It's got to be tough though, Giff, because you're a coach, and they'll probably ask you this question over the next couple of days, and you've got it because you're bringing back in Rowan Wingham this week. So one of your props will probably be either playing P2s or something else. Would you consider moving one of them out to Torrey? But I suppose it really comes down to the player, does it? Because really, if the player doesn't want to play, well, he's wasting his time, isn't he?
And that's the big question. Like at the end of the day, we want guys playing footy, but I'm a big believer that you just got to take it off with the player.
Yep.
Because if they're keen and they want to, then awesome. That's a great outcome. But if it doesn't feel comfortable, then at the end of the day, you don't want a guy out there who's uncomfortable. You never know, could get hurt. So safety too. So put it to the player first, and don't get me wrong, we'll do our best to try and help. So.
Okay, let's talk about you. Let's talk about some players. Is there some kids that we haven't seen at AU having their first year at AU and who could be a bit of a player to watch out for?
Well, I guess we've got the 2 young Thode boys fresh out of high
so
school.
they're straight out of Otago boys, aren't they? So how, because they were very cocky when I talked to them at the start of the year, they wanted to play Prem rugby.
Yes.
They ain't very big.
Oh, they're reasonable size.
Yeah. So what are they, so they've been playing Prems most week, those 2 boys?
So initially they came off the bench in the first probably 2 games, but they're working their way into the starting situation now with the other injuries we've had. So they're good young lads and they work pretty hard. They're in pretty good nick physically, so you might say they're not that tall and whatnot, but they're strong.
Strong enough.
Yeah.
And what about you, mate? Because you've got a lot of new players into the club this year. Are we looking for are there some standouts that have just arrived that you think could be the real deal here this year?
Yeah, probably a couple to highlight. So Tane Harvey, come down from Palmer Boys.
He came on and played in the midfield last week.
Yeah, so popped on midfield. Had a really bad ankle sprain during his Honda's 20s campaign, so basically he couldn't travel to Taupo, so he rehabbed really hard. Exciting midfielder. Another one too, Josh Augustine as well, had an awesome campaign up in Taupo on the left wing for them, and he's from Napier.
So you've been playing him at fullback a bit?
Yes, playing him at fullback. He seems to be comfortable there. Played a wee bit there at school too. So.
And he's obviously genuinely quick. He looks pretty quick. He's got a nice try against, I think, Zingaree a couple of weeks ago when he came into the back line.
He's sharp, he's tall, he's sort of, your new age winger.
Right. Yeah. Okay, boys, we'll come on. We better go into our film 15 because we've got some changes to make, and we'll have a chat about these guys, and then we'll come on and talk and look at the games this week. So in our forward pack, we're changing the whole front row. So Hunter Fahey, he didn't play last week because he told me he was injured. Lalofi, he's now gone, I think. He's away to New Zealand Colts. And Josh Taylor, well, I only really put him in for his 50th game, but he's one of the great kids, mate. He's good, man. Superstar. I don't think he's the best prop in the world, but what a great kid.
Good club man. He's always there. Turns up.
Right, and we're putting in Michael Stridham into hooker from Kike, mainly because he scored. We've just lost our number 8. We're going to lose him anyway, so don't worry about him. So Michael Stridham, but he comes in because he scored 3 tries last week. And we're putting 2 new props in. Charles Engelbrecht comes in at 1 for varsity. We've seen this kid play for the last couple of years out of John McGlashan. He doesn't want to stay up there either. So we'll just put him right there. And Sepa Vaka, now he played pretty well at the weekend. He played 80 minutes for you. That must have been a tough ask for a big guy like him.
Yeah, big time. But he's had a good pre-season and a good start to the season, so we backed him. So. Okay,
our locks aren't changing. Will Tucker and James Bolton. Talk to me about James Bolton. Has he made have they added him to the Otago squad?
Yeah, they've added him into, I think, the high performance space. So, so a bit of introductory stuff last week. And then, sort of just finding his feet in that space.
He's a tough kid, mate.
Yeah, tough kid, man. big kid now.
We're going to put Lucas Casey's going to come out. We're dropping Lucas Casey, and we're going to put Thomas Brock. He played for Southern against you in the weekend. I think he played at lock.
Yep.
But I thought he played. He's not a tall guy, but I thought he was probably their best player.
Yeah, good frame too. Really good frame.
Carries well, doesn't
Yeah,
he?
really carries well. And we're going to put Delaney McKenzie in. Roddick stays in. We're putting Delaney McKenzie because he scored 4 tries for Grand Island at the weekend. So he gets a run. In the backs, we are going to make some changes. Mackenzie Palmer, no, he stays in. Jordan McEntee comes in for Hetherington's still on the team. So we're dropping Josiah Sakaria. We've lost our number 9, but he's out anyway. So Sakaria, he's out because he didn't play at the weekend. And we're going to put Jordan McEntee in there at 11. Boys, played his 100th game. I've mentioned this in the paper tomorrow. Played his 100th game last week. And how many intercepts would he have had in that time? He must have 50% of his games he would have got an intercept.
I think he's got about 30 against us.
Yeah.
We seem to,
But he's a bit of a character around rugby.
Yep.
Good to see he's played 100 games. We're going to put Bradley Campbell. I haven't seen much of this kid. He's the halfback from varsity, but we're going to put him in because he was pretty impressive on the weekend. Cam Burgess is going to come in for Nick Profit. He's going pretty, this is his first year starting at 10 for the Sharks. He's going pretty well.
Yeah, like new posse for him. So it's always going to take time, especially when you're in a 10 role too. So when you're expected to drive the whole unit. So yeah, just week by week for him, and I think you can see on the footage, man, he's
Going good. And his goal kicking's pretty good too.
Yeah. Put a lot of work in.
Josh Fonger's out. We're going to put Riley Lucas in from GI. He's been getting written up the last couple of weeks, so he probably deserves a shot. So there is our Form 15. Righto. By the way, our rugby chat winner this week, and the question in the ODT last Friday was Ryan Banbury only played 1 game for the Highlanders, and which team did he play against? And everybody got it wrong, apart from Richard Perkins. I can't believe Richard Perkins is filling in these quiz answers. And I, of course, talked to Ryan Banbury, who played in that. That was the question, but he couldn't remember who he played in his only game for the Highlanders. Anyway, so it was, in fact, the Cats. And Richard Perkins got that right. So look, let's talk about this weekend. Let's start with the 2 games that you guys were involved in. So let's start, we'll start with you. Let's talk about, so AU are at home to Zingaree. And I've looked up on the, there's a few Highlanders available to play this week, none for AU.
Yep.
And I see there's two Highlander locks playing for them.
Yeah, well,
how tough is that?
Yeah, so our line-out's not that tall. When Mitch Dunshay was there a couple of weeks back, it certainly made a huge difference to the average height.
Yep.
But the guys we've got are battling away pretty hard. They're never going to be dominant in the air as such, but they do their work, so just got a bit of variety.
So they've got Max Hicks and they've got
Hugo Plummer
and Hugo Plummer both playing. Okay, so look, they'll be pretty confident they can win this and put a score on.
Yeah, and they're coming week off as well, so they'll be fresh, I guess, aren't they? So.
Okay. And let's talk about Kaikorai and Dunedin. No love lost between Kaikorai and Dunedin up at the High Veld this weekend. Yeah. They won't have who won't they have out of the hot? They won't have the Patchells, I think, starting for the Highlanders. Yeah. And they've lost their big lock. I think Tucker. I think Will Tucker is in the reserves for the Highlanders. So they're both out. But you get a couple back, I see.
Yeah, so Roe Wingham, Tolly Prop, he'll be in, and AJ Whalefunga as well.
So is that good for you or bad for you in terms of your players, or does that work out okay for you?
We've been pretty fortunate, try to keep the spine of our squad sort of, rolling over throughout these first 4 weeks. So sort of just trying to plug them in around that spine. So don't get me wrong, it can get a wee bit messy because, they want to uptake and try and learn, what we're doing. But look, they're good enough players that, a couple of days, good conversations, they'll be fine.
And both those kids have played a lot of rugby for Dunedin anyway.
Exactly.
So, so you, in that Kaikorai Dunedin game, who are you picking?
Oh, I'm going to go Kaik at home. I haven't seen Dunedin this year, but I've seen Kaik and they were pretty good. They moved the ball well. Some good decision makers. Lucas, you dropped him off, but he's a good player. And Slade and is Hayden Michaels playing for them as well?
I think Hayden Michaels is playing for them. Yep.
Got a good crew,
okay, so let's talk about Tyree GI. Who's going to win that?
I think GI, yeah, mate. You know, we played them first round, and look, good unit. Bit more depth this year, I think they have too. So
Defensively, they're a good side.
yeah, big time. I think you can put that down to old Marty Backs, apparently.
Well,
so.
I'm still struggling with that because he hasn't made a tackle in his life, but apparently he is. According to Finchy, he's your guy. His backline defence has been great.
Yeah, mate. So no, pick them, mate.
And they've got, I see they've picked up, they've got Gilbert playing for them this week. He's been released to them. He's been stood down from the Highlanders, and I think they might be starting Tahiwi.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Oh, the Highlanders.
Yeah, I'm hearing they might be
Cool.
starting Tahiwi.
Great opportunity for him.
Yeah. Okay, so Tyree GI for you. You?
Big GI. It's at home at GI. Is that right?
Tyree are at home.
Oh, Tyree at home.
Yeah. But you're picking
You
GI?
haven't seen Tyree, but I'll go GI yet.
Okay, so Varsity are at home to Harbour.
I'll go Varsity. Yeah.
What about you?
Yep.
And so AU Zingaree, well, we talked about that, and we talked about Kaikorai versus
AU
Dunedin.
unders. There we go.
Yeah. There was just one other thing, before I finish, because I did write about it earlier on in the year, just a wee bit tongue-in-cheek. I heard there was a big meeting between Harbour and AU, but from what I understand, it didn't go much further than a meeting.
No, correct. We had a beer with them on Thursday night down at the bar bar. So
Right.
most Thursdays after training, if you want to come for a beer with Harbour and AU, you can come to the bar bar.
I could talk about the conversations I've had with Harbour this week. I think they may have blacklisted me, so I don't think I'll be having too many beers, especially after they read tomorrow morning's paper, or Friday morning's paper. They may be never having a beer with me again.
Okay.
So look, there it is. So those games this week, Kaikorai, Dunedin, look, it'll be really, really tight. There's two really good teams here. Kaikorai have put on 165 points in their first three games, and they've only conceded 15. So they're on red hot form. Dunedin have won 2 from 4. I'm picking the Sharks to win. I think the Sharks pack, especially with Rowan Wingham back in, might be just a wee bit strong. Tyree versus GI, I tend to agree with the lads. I think GI, they've got a pretty good squad this year, and Finchy's got a lot of players that are fit. So I'm thinking GI will be too strong for Tyree. I think Varsity will be too strong for Harbour. Varsity put 80 on these boys last week. You doesn't need a reminder of that, but I looked at, they scored 5 tries out wide. Asti scored 3, and I think Bogano scored a couple, so they've obviously played some good code. Unlucky not to win a few games in the first few days, so I'm picking Varsity to beat Harbour. And an AU versus Zingaree, I'd love to see AU get up, but I just think Zingaree might be just a bit strong. And we will be back with you again next week.
Can he get around his man? He can! Look at the gas! Look at the gas! Try!